Good morning, everyone. We are here in beautiful Irvine, California, and you are Anna in where?
I am in New York City.
All right, we're bi-coastal this morning. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So welcome. I'm Desiree Patno. I am your host of Know the Rules of the Game. It is an official trademark. Can you believe after all these years, Know the Rules of the Game was not trademarked? So we trademarked a couple years ago. And today it's going to be about the fashion of confidence. So here we go through the pandemic of what we went through the last 15, 16 months, and we're continuing going to, do we go out? Do we not? Do we socialize? Do we not? And one of the biggest things that I want to make sure is that not to introduce myself about all my background, where I've done, all the things I'm involved in as a real estate, been 30 years and running an ecosystem of the ability of housing real estate ecosystem. It's really about today my passion love, which is fashion. How my wardrobe, my extensive, collection that I've been doing for the last 50 years. Why? Because fashion to me is the way that I build confidence. I stand up, I feel good about myself, and I can energize myself. So today, with a clinical psychologist and a woman who has dedicated her life to making sure that you feel good, from the time that she was working with the independent schools for children about dealing with language and all that stuff, which is their outlook, but then also how you look. So thank you very much, Anna, for joining us and what that looks like. And so let's dig right into it. Tell us a little about yourself and what drove you to take this journey down to the fashion side.
Well, thank you so much, Desiree, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I have been a psychologist for 20 years, working with children, adolescents, and adults in a traditional way. I've worked with kids in schools, helping them feel better about themselves. Children with language-based learning disabilities often feel rejected, dejected, and it was always my job to make them feel better about their potential. And then in private practice, traditionally work with people who feel anxious or depressed or, just feeling stuck. And I did that for 20 years. And all along, I've always had this passion for fashion. And to be honest, I think that what drove me to fashion started when I was just a little girl. When I think about how excited I was about clothing, how like motivated I was, I think honestly it was about a sense of belonging and connection. Because Desiree, I was a super shy child. I wanted so much to connect with people, but just felt so like held back. And I used clothing as a way to connect. And I found myself, if I put on something special, people were drawn to me and they would comment on the clothing. And I had so much more to talk about the clothing than I could about sports that I knew nothing about or music that I really wasn't interested in. So this was my outlet. And as I got older, it just became, it blew up and blew up. And I became that friend that everyone asked to go shopping with. And I just enjoyed it so much. And then I decided a few years ago, knowing that I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, I always tried new things. I wanted to do something about this passion, and I did. I started the Fashionologist.
I love it. So think about that. I've always made my signature about going, because I did travel every single week to go speak in front of thousands of people, or maybe just for a meeting or whatever. But I got on an airplane, and everywhere I went, I made sure that when I showed up, they knew I was dressed to the nines. I had that ability to showcase what I was doing, how I was doing. Because I've been collecting clothes for my entire life, and that ability to, oh, my weight, okay, it's scaled by whether I can still fit in it or not, right? But I got to be known as the woman who would show up to see what she was wearing. So they always would come to see me, not just to hear what I had to say, but to see what I was wearing. And they would bring their friends and their friends. And to your point, right, it's about the attraction of making you feel good. As I'm going to be 61 this year, so I still have to have that confidence. And that's what this whole thing about is, a fashion of confidence, right? And you talked about that. So if we were to open this up and say, before we get into the rules, I love your introduction. I think your power right now is going to be greater than ever to transcend the changing of the mental state as we go through, of how do we adapt, how do we cope, how do we deal with our children, our aging population, and how do we deal with our own self to make sure that our needs of our mind are taken care of first. Because if we can't take care of us first, we can't help others. So through the eyes of fashion, without being being health conscious as I am, that, you know, whether they have, what do you want to call it? Extracurricular, we'll call drinking and ways to stimulus us to make us a little different, right? But not going to get crazy. How has your experiences, you think, are going to relate to that new world, right? As we move through this.
So I think that, I don't see clothing as fashion. I see clothing as well being. And that's a little bit about what we're talking about, right? Using clothing as a tool, as a way of changing things in the brain so that you actually feel something or think something. And that happens. Research shows it. There is, I know, you know that. Brilliant, brilliant woman. There are so many studies out there that have actually proven what you already know. And I have always had that intuition myself. I just didn't realize it was, real. I thought what I knew everyone knew. I didn't realize this was right. So I would be surprised when I would see somebody dressed a certain way who was trying to project a completely different image. I thought, how did they not know this? But it's just something that not many people are tuned into. So I think that, especially now as we're changing the rules, as we're literally leaping forward from a time this year that we have completely and totally sort of gone completely loose and bonkers, with our Lululemons and our Gap sweats and whatever it is. We really got to get back on track. And there's no question that we're not going back to the new normal. I'm sorry, we're not going back to the old normal. We're not going back to that old normal. We're not going back to what used to be. We're going back to that new normal. That's what I meant. And so, we're going back to a new place where we're redesigning the rules, and it's going to be impacted by how we defended ourselves for the last year.
I love it. And it's getting dressed for the purpose, getting dressed for us, getting our ability to scale our happiness, our thoughts, get people, one of the things like right now, one of the things I really miss being on a call like this, a virtual call, whether it's Uber conference or Zoom or whatever media you're using, is our ability to not have a surface behind us. If you notice, I have all these incredible ladies, and you can look at their fashion. You can, oh, did you see her? Oh my gosh, I like that. Oh my gosh, she knows Barbara. She knows. But you have something you can relate to. And if I look at your screen behind you, I see that you have a wall and you have a shade, and you're trying to keep it, focused on you. But when fashion comes into, we want to see that you have a beautiful shirt. We want to see how your face looks gorgeous. You have all this put together. But fashion, usually to me, you have a staple point behind you. You have an iconic landscape, or you have something that you can frame it, right? When you're walking in, here comes, look at her grace and how she walks. Look at how she moves. Look at how the dress flows, right? So as a psychologist, I think that your ability to shape and frame their confidence and how you can extrapolate that is a huge component of the work that you do. Because with the language criteria you're talking about with children, you would see what would make them happy, and you could help turn that around, right?
I do. I mean, that's a skill set I have. I know not to say you'll be fine, everything's okay, because that doesn't work. I have a skill set to know to say something a little bit more in depth and thoughtful. The same goes with the fashion. If somebody says to me, I'm trying to put out there that I'm confident, that I'm an expert, that I'm a leader, and they walk out of the closet in something that absolutely does not send that message, I can tell them in a way that's, non-judgmental and non-harsh. Actually, let me tell you what others see. Here's what I see. And, they're shocked, like, really? I really thought that this was what I was portraying. And I'll say, that wasn't it,
I love that. That's good.
I was just going to say that I think, it's for you and me, we get it, but there's so many people who don't, and they need that guidance.
I love the way you said you can do it with grace, and you can frame it to where all the skills, because as a child, were the most important that they remember for life, right? And as an older person, we start thinking, Well, what does she know? Well, really? No, I know everything because once you know one thing, you're supposed to know all the different things. So the fact that you can put that together and really frame that, I think it's fantastic. So let's dig into the rules. So
Okay.
we're going to talk with rule number one because this is the whole purpose of it. How can we, and not that we want to have more rules on top of rules on top of rules and all that kind of stuff, especially where we're wearing a face mask or we're not, or what are we doing? But the idea is that these are fundamentally, in my opinion, the basics that we need to remember, because sometimes we get so convoluted up here that we got to come back down to the groundwork. And number one, clothes have an influence on our emotions as well as our performance. I think that is so powerful. Talk to me a little about that.
So I am 100% believer of clothes have power, period. I know that clothes have power for me. I know that you talk about it, but I also know this because there's an entire study devoted to the understanding of what clothes do to people called enclothed cognition. And so when I started this business, I wanted to have some research behind me. I'm a cognitive person. I'm somebody who's always been research oriented. So I found this entire field of study fascinating. There have been so many different studies on, what the clothing someone wears does for them. So there was a groundbreaking study. You might have heard of it or seen it in a newspaper. In 2012, they had a study where they put a white lab coat on two groups of people, and they told one group that they were doctors, and they told the second group that they were painters. Same lab coat. You can imagine this like white kind of lab coat, very plain. They gave them cognitive tests to perform. Guess what? The ones who were wearing those doctor coats, they ended up attending better, focusing better, overall doing better, solving the problems better than those who thought that they were wearing painter's coat. And that is all about the perception of what that coat meant to them. There have been studies of, formal versus informal clothing. People who tend to wear informal clothing don't do as well on performance tests. They don't negotiate as well. They've proven that they don't negotiate with partners as well because there's something about this sense of like non-seriousness, I think, that doesn't kind of light up the brain. And so you're not performing as well. There was even a study where they put men in different groups and they asked them to wear these Superman t-shirts. This is my favorite. And the ones wearing these Superman t-shirts genuinely believe not only were they stronger, but that they were smarter and could get more done than the ones who were not wearing the Superman t-shirt. I mean, it's just phenomenal to me. It's all about what somebody wears. And that's just, studies looking at the actual type of clothing. There's also what people wear every day that make a difference. When I think about branding oneself, right, Desiree? Like when you think about how you want to brand yourself, that's super important. And that means that you need to understand the power of clothing.
Well, that's so powerful because if you think about, you tell with branding. My younger brother, as a performer, used to perform as Solid Gold and been, several movies, the Hollywood scene, phenomenal dancer. And he said he'd never wear a label. He says, I don't get paid to wear a label. My label is me and my brand is me. So unless I'm being paid, I'm not going to wear someone else's brand that shows it, right?
Wow.
So to your point on the painter's test and the test regarding what they're wearing and how they perceive, I believe that performance is you bring it the best when you dress up. Now, I got to be honest with you, my wardrobe is probably 80% high-end, very evening wear versus then casual wear that I can wear out. I can pick out, any day of the day, anytime I could pick out a whole ensemble of a formal wear every single day to be wore out. When it comes to the casual wear, others outside Lululemon, a few other little pieces I have, what am I going to wear that's going to be casual enough that I'm not going to flip out if I get it ruined? Being real. Because I have an incredible knack of being able to buying the most expensive culture lines for pennies on the dollar. I've been doing it for 50 years. That's my trade. That's who I am. I'll champion anyone to that. But the idea is that brand new, not resell, not gone through the cycle. But that market's changed. As we know, the pandemic has created the the buyers not to buy, the high-end couture not to make other than a couple pieces, not to have a full ensemble. And then so the biggest wealth is off the average, the smaller, not so fancy average sell line that they have out there. And then they have the knockoffs and go down depending on the schedule. So for you, in your clothing line, when you talk about performance, and I know you can relate to this exceptionally well before we go on to number two, before the clothing line doesn't have to be the Chanel's and the Dolce & Gabbanas and the Pradas of the world. They can be your target line that's just as basic and as inexpensive as possible. It's how they fit you. It's how you feel in them. It's how they amplify your strengths and go around, whatever size you are, whatever height you are, whatever color schemes you have. There's certain colors on me. I look like I'm completely nude when I'm wearing something. I'm like, well, that just washed me out. That's not a cool looking thing, right? So talk to us about that performance too, that I believe it's just about, and before we go into, I know it's part of number two, but that performance of knowing what to go into, the ability to have that strength of fitting you, right?
Well, that's a big piece of it. I mean, you can put on the most expensive Chanel suit, and if that doesn't fit you right, you're going to look like you got it at a garage sale, 100%. And wouldn't that be awesome if we found one at a garage sale? But, it's really, like you said, fit is super important. So you do not have to spend a lot of money to look like $1 million. But, if you ask me, you need a good seamstress. You need somebody who knows how to put it together. And it could be somebody, Manhattan, we use people at the dry cleaner. For some very high-end things, we have some more specialized tailors. But generally, you just need someone who knows how to sew up the clothing. And you take any decent outfit that you buy, like you said, Target, at Kohl's, wherever it is. If you can fit it for your body, you're going to look like $1 million. No one's going to test the material and compare it to anything super high end. As long as the pattern is not screaming name brand Target or something, but there's absolutely wonderful, amazing things to find at these low H&Ms and Forever 21s. Absolutely.
I love it because, and the other thing goes is that I can't tell you how many times that I'll wear all the high end and then I'll wear something very, very inexpensive. Like, oh my God, it's so great. Who is it? Don't ask. You get known, but then also it fits you so well. It looks good. And I have the confidence to wear it. So let's move on to number two, because I love that comment. Like you said, it's having a seamstress, because I actually have had one for 28 years.
Wow.
And the thing is that she made me look like a Barbie doll and all the formal wear, everything else. And she would tell me, why did you buy this piece of garbage? Excuse me, it's $5,000. I don't care. Get it out of here. I mean, that was the mentality. We had that relationship, and you can't have a friend, priceless, not only as a friend, but to have that ability to say no and have the confidence to say, you ain't going there, girl. I mean, literally grab it, but I love it. Out of here. So rule number two, when dressing for your job, keep it subtle, classy, and covered up. Talk to me about that, because you see a lot of women and guys, not just for women, that go in there and think that the more skin they show, the better off, or they think being just completely wild and crazy, which I am, and I'm very black today, because I have a lot of color behind me. It would just really clash. And I was going to wear this great Jean Claire, and it was beautiful, but the colors were identical. And I said, this would like blend in. I'd be part of the paperwork. So not a good one. So how is that in today's world with all the different pastels going on? Talk to me.
I've been working for more than 20 years, right? And I have gone through very different phases of dress in my career. I was that, eager intern who used to wear the little button down shirts and the slacks and the belt, the high heels. And then I went to the blazers and suits. I mean, I did it all. I feel honestly, point blank, you need to earn the right to get a little trendy and fashionable and a little crazy. You need to earn the right. And I think, Desiree, you obviously have earned the right to wear whatever the hell you want to wear. But for the others out there who are trying to get into the next position, who are trying to earn that promotion, whatever it is, who are trying to start out, I think that you need to know that there are certain rules. And I say keep it classy because it works best. If you stay classy, and by classy, I just mean nothing too fashionable, nothing that's going to say, I care more about how I look than what I'm going to put out there. That's what I mean, right? If you've got too much going on in terms of fashion, you're sending a message that, like, are you even going to care much about what is going on in the office? The other thing is, keep it buttoned up. Nobody needs to see whatever's going on here. And obviously, typically for more women than men, women, I think a lot of young women specifically feel that their sexy look is it does them well. I don't think so. I think, again, it sends a message that you are trying to get a different kind of attention, and it's hard for people to take you seriously. And that's just the truth. I think that a lot of young women have a hard time deciphering between what's work appropriate and what's Saturday night appropriate. So a lot of young women I work with, they'll show up for these like more dressy functions looking like they just, got ready for like a night out on the town, short dresses or revealing tops. Even bra straps showing. You really have to be mindful of everything that you're putting out there, because it might send a message different than what you want others to perceive. So it's not about not being yourself. Sometimes people will say to me, well, Anya, I'm fashion forward. I love all these things. And I'll say, you need to earn that right. And until you do, keep it classy, keep it simple, keep it subtle.
Earn that right. Interesting. I've never heard anyone say that. I think it also would go into earn not only the right, but have the package to earn that right, right? It's not
Right.
just the ability to say that I have arrived, I've got my package together, I have all the components, but the idea is that having that ability to do it with confidence, class, because even if you're revealing in certain times, like you see these beautiful plunging dresses that worn well and worn with class are stunning, absolutely stunning, can still be exceptionally classy, because they're covering more, even though you're seeing skin. It just how it drapes and how it hangs is just gorgeous. It's when it's completely loose and completely all over the place, you're just like, wait a second, did we throw something on? And you move forward and everything just kind of hangs everywhere. But I like that, earn the right, because I think that's part of the growing up, evolving, and staying on the railroad tracks, right? And making sure that you're going. And I love the fact that how we're talking about, going through those days. I remember where, the Farrah Fawcett with the hair and wearing a bathing suit, and, she's still iconic, what she had gone through and everything during this day. And then you go into the Marilyn Monroe, phase of the dress going up and down and all the famous scenes. And then you go into the big, heavy shoulder pads of me being 6 foot tall and having big shoulders, putting the shoulders down. I look like a football player going down the street. And I'm fortunate that I have such big shoulders. I'm able to take huge sizes and shape them. And then we went into the tent scene, like the 60s and 70s, that we could just hang everything out. So it's, we went through a period, I'd say last couple of years, where anything goes, right? You now have, I'm gonna wear jeans with the most psychedelic colors over here. The layers don't match, the colors don't match, but I gave you texture like food. My son, being a gourmet chef, says, Mom, gotta give texture, gotta give flavor. And every time you take a bite, there's a different, zang that comes out of it. And I'm kind of looking at fashion going, really? And I was talking to a designer yesterday. He says the 80 vibes are back.
Yep.
That was you and I, right? How that feels. And I believe that we're earning that right is very interesting to go back to the 80s, because I think that's what the whole thing about, right? That's very different. Interesting. I have to massage that one for a while. I love it. All right. So the next one is the rule number 3. Know what your body type is and dress for your shape, whether it's straight, pear, hourglass, curvy, apple, full bust. And I know that changes as we get older.
Absolutely. Oh my. Especially during COVID. I think
that was only a year and a half. That wasn't like 10 years. Go ahead.
Yeah, your body changes. As a woman, you just unfortunately the the body that you had at 25 is not the body you're going to have at 55. It's just a fact. And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just is what it is. So, you cannot be wearing the same kinds of clothes, just like you should not be wearing the same hairstyles. You see women sometimes in the same hairstyles as they had when they were in high school. Unless it was very classy, there's no good reason why your hair in the 80s, that high, you know what I'm talking about? I have a friend from high school on Facebook. I see her. She still has that high 80s look from high school. I think, oh Lord. So there's something to be said about knowing your shape. And if you don't, go and ask somebody at a store, for some help on what might look best. But there are certain kinds of clothing that certainly look best on different body shapes. So I know when I work with women with very big busts, they'll tell me, I can't wear anything too closed up. It just balloons me. So something a little bit more lower cut or V-neck is usually more flattering. Somebody with a larger buttocks, they need a certain silhouette that just shapes their body differently. And all of it should be celebrated, but you should be mindful of it when you're looking for the right kind of outfit.
What about plaids and stripes?
I'm all for plaids and stripes. I don't want anyone to dress boring. I just think that it all depends on how you look in them. The common sense says that if you're on the more Rubenesque, wider side, you should not be wearing stripes that are sort of accentuating that length, that instead you should be more vertical than horizontal. I mean, I feel like I learned that years ago, and it's a great piece of advice. But again, it depends. I mean, if you're going to walk into a office in a plaid blazer, but you've got something neutral underneath, that looks great. If you're going into a Zoom and you're the keynote and you're wearing a full-on plaid, it's going to be hard to actually focus on your face if all they see is this pattern. So there's a lot to think about. And, that's why someone like me does what I do, because I think that people actually need guidance on this. It's not the same rule for everyone, and really dependent on on what the event is, on who you are and your body type.
So let's talk about colors.
So color theory is phenomenal. Something that, again, I feel like I kind of knew for inherently for a long time, but it turns out there's a real theory to it. And I'm not going to, Desiree, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert fashion person there are people who do this for a living, all color theory. But what I do know are the basics. I know that if you want to look dependable, if you want to look reliable, trustworthy, you want to look serious, wear blues. And they'll tell people, if you're going for an interview, wear blues. If you want to look earthy, dependable, browns, earth colors, right? You want to wear something that says, I'm serious, powerful, I really got this. Blacks actually say that. And then if you want to take a risk, reds are kind of shaking things up, right? Red is shaking things up. Red obviously gets their attention, which isn't always a great thing. There's red. To be the only woman in the room that's red is great sometimes, as long as you show up and ready for it. Because what people sometimes perceive in red is that you're a troublemaker. There's something going on. There's risk to be involved. And that could be great in certain cultures. But again, it depends what you're doing. If you're a nurse wearing red, I'd be a little freaked out. Like, what kind of risk are we taking? But if you're in finance or real estate and you got all these great things going on, and I know that you're going to be someone who's going to shake things up, I might be more drawn to you because of that red dress that you're wearing.
I love it. I think that red means you arrived. Red means that your confidence, your power, and your ability to solve the problem, right? And I think that sometimes, as a nurse, you made a comment, it's whether the risk, if I saw someone in red, because I now know that they do have color, garments for nurses, because they brought color in, thank God, instead of being all one color of green or blue. Red to me would be to that someone that would offer me change. I don't know if I would be so worried about the red color, just that person felt alive and good. But the problem is red could be so associated with blood. If you think about being in a hospital, especially with my son, and people I know have been in hospitals, and you see a lot of blood laying around or getting blood transfused and things like that, that correlation could be a bad thing. So I think that's a very interesting point. You talk about the specialists that do nothing but color. Color can be, in my mind, something that really transcends living versus then not. But black also has, and a lot of people don't realize that, like Angela Jolie, for many, I don't know honestly how long, but I know for there's a period where she had nothing in her closet but black. There's several hundred shades of black, and people don't realize that, especially when you get into fabric textures and sizes, and I mean fabric textures and materials and shading and and treatment to it, that you can have a shiny black, a flat black, a texturized black, and all these different shades. And I can tell you, pulling out a black shirt, black jacket, and black pants, and they can be so different and so bad that they look absolutely horrible when you get certain lights, because that piece that might be the most expensive is faded or grayed compared to the other blacks. Yet to you in the closet, oh, this is pure black. And until you get the right light, the right reflection. So one of the things that you mentioned is about the coloring being so powerful. I believe that if you feel good, but you doubt, ask someone. And I believe now and there's so many different resources that you can find for color palettes that you can go. Sometimes, unfortunately, do you go in the store? Who's going to be in that store? And are they the best that looks at? Are they the fashion seamstress? Are they just sewers, right? Or are the specialty we live in this world? Is one of the things I talk about, is that we have so many, we're so global, but we're so siloed. Like the doctors only know how to be doctors. They don't do nursing things. They don't give shots, where the nurses do the nursing thing, and they're smarter than doctors. And it's like, no, the doctor's above the nurse. No, they go to different schools, do different things, and a nurse can actually be better than a doctor. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. And see, you made that comment about the fashion, saying, here we have the fashion that you're about the piece, the whole package. And yet there's people who could be sub of you, of doing the color specialists, that do, the fitting specialists and the seamstress specialists. And not everyone can afford that, because by the time you get into those layers, it's wild, right? So talking to the average person out there that's now getting back into the swing of things and saying, okay, I'm taking care of the kids. I'm now, I need to show up for work outside of this digital platform. And I have to have a hybrid. Do you have any recommendations for that confidence to make them feel like I still can feel great, but I can still have that kid a hip on my shoulder, and I can still manage the purse, and I can still manage taking something else? What do you recommend to still give me that feeling of confidence, but not feeling overwhelmed because how I'm dressed? That's going to cause a problem. What do you suggest?
I suggest going into your closet, taking everything out that doesn't work, that just doesn't serve you, right? Just take it out, pack it up, donate it, sell it if you can, give it away, whatever it is, just get rid of it. Or if it's just not seasonal, put it into a different space so that you just don't have to look at it, okay? The only thing that should be left in your closet are things that are convenient. You can pull them out, put them on, looks good, looks appropriate. If you're somebody who doesn't want to invest in new clothing, don't want to go shopping, buy some 3-4 items that'll just keep you active for the spring, summer, the summer now, invest in accessories. There's so many costume jewelry places. You can just walk into like a Claire's, or you can walk into any kind of store that has just dress jewelry, because if you can accessorize yourself, you're going to just change up the entire game, and that's going to make you feel more put together. So, again, I'm for the clothing. I think that clothing has so much power, but I'm also invested in accessories. You got to play up your ear game. It makes or breaks a outfit. You can buy some jewelry for your neck. It doesn't have to be expensive. Invest in your hair. Again, you don't have to go and get it done all the time, but if your hair looks good, you look good. I'm telling you. If you could do it. I've tried so many tutorials, but honestly, Desiree, my 11-year-old can do my hair better than I can. She's she's a master at it. But if you could just get it looking nice, you're gonna feel good. You're gonna feel confident. I think that's what it's about. So I'm not proposing that you need to spend $1 zillion. I'm saying just elevate yourself. purchase a couple of things if you can. If your budget doesn't let you, then invest in some costume jewelry. Doesn't have to be super crazy, just something that'll, you know, dangle you a little bit and bring out like a little shine. And it says that you've made an effort. And that's going to mean a lot to you as you grab your bag and run out to do, you know, camp drop-offs and all that kind of stuff.
I love it. Well, I was looking around for us. I was seeing if I had one of our company scarves here. I blew that one. But
no.
yeah, no, I'm a huge component of scarves. I have so many scarves. I probably have 50 to 80 scarves. I'm not exaggerating, because scarves are that splash. You know, you wear your basic black like I have right now. You can change 5 different scarves. You could drape it around and pull it down and make it to where you feel like you're wearing a completely different outfit. Like you said, having those basic colors to go with it. Now, I was a little like, oh my God, she wants me to take my clothes out that I haven't worn or don't give no value. Everything gives value. I'm a hoarder. Let's get real. Everyone who knows me, like Desiree, is like, seriously? But that point that I really want to emphasize is that you can't get overwhelmed on trying to find your clothes because they're mismanaged. They're not properly situated. So I'd like to talk about taking that time to coordinate your closet, to, like you said, take seasonal. So, you know, my thing is that, okay, if it's something I'm going to wear during the winter, make it into either a color palette or have your jackets and your shirts and your pants in order. So you can go, okay, I need to find a jacket. Well, I'm going to go to this corner versus they're going to this, you know, closet in my case, to where I need to go find it, because time is, you don't want to depress yourself while you're getting dressed and then have to bring yourself back up because you think, well, I got it today, right? So how do you make that work other than just getting rid of it? Any organizational skills besides that?
Well, it's going to take a little time, to be honest. You're going to have to devote an afternoon. You're going to have to devote a couple afternoons, you know, but it certainly is going to take a little time, because you're going to have to go into that closet. And, you know, I recommend bringing somebody in there with you, because usually you need that objective person to just say yay or nay. And that helps.
And not your significant other, you know, because right. Say something, oh, it's always great. Yeah. You want me to say it looks bad? Then you're going to be mad at me. And then if I say it looks good, and then you're going to be mad that you didn't tell me it didn't look good.
See, that's why someone like me works well, because I'm objective, I'm non-judgmental, and I'm not going to get pissed if you get angry at me, because you know, that's not my problem. You're going to get mad at me? Okay, let's move on. But I'm not going to take it personally. I think that clothes hold an incredible amount of emotional sentiment to us. There's no question about it. I've got shoes that I purchased the day I found out I was pregnant with my first. I will never wear those shoes again. I refuse to get rid of them. They mean so much to me. You know, they were heels. So I found out I was pregnant. I purchased myself this huge set of heels. What was I think? Clearly naive. If I knew, I'd never wear them. The point is that you need to feel good in the clothing that you have, okay? You need to ask yourself, how does this clothing serve me now? So if you're looking at something that says, I love this, I plan to wear this at something in the next few months or maybe a year max, then let's keep it in there. And if not, and you don't want to get rid of it, then put it somewhere else. But if you think you can get rid of it, and when I say get rid of it, I don't mean toss it in the dustbin. I mean, like, give it to someone who will genuinely appreciate it. You know, I have some truly amazing clothing. I have one sister who doesn't appreciate any of these clothing. So I learned a long time ago not to give her a single thing, because I would give her these fancy schmancy clothes and she'd wrap them up in balls and throw them in the closet, and I'd say, I'm not giving her anything. I'd rather give it to the friend or to somebody at Goodwill who will appreciate it, you know? And I think that if it's not serving you, then what is it doing? Are you opening your closet to a pile of clothing that just brings up negative feelings? Are you looking at pants that say, wow, remember when I used to go out all the time and I never do anymore? Or are you opening up to clothes that say, you know, remember when I was a size 0? I wonder when that'll happen again. You know, I mean, we all have that, but these are negative feelings. Is this helpful? Is this how you want to live your life? Especially if you're a busy woman, which most of us are. You know, you got kids, you got work, you got this, you got that. We want to make this easy. So take the clothing that you know you will wear in the next, let's say summer, keep it short, next 2 months, easy breezy. You could take it if you have the time, take out the clothing, spread them out on the bed, and look at how you can put them together, right? You can make outfits even easier. You can put those outfits together in the closet if you truly want to be efficient, right? So next time you want to grab something to go to run an errand, you got these two things, boom, you're done. Next time you want to go to a summer cocktail party, boom, you got that dress, right? Know what you need beforehand so that you are prepared for when it happens, because most of us don't have the luxury of just sitting in front of the closet. And to be honest, even today for this, I was like, oh man, what am I going to wear? I thought I had something in mind. I put it on. Oh, what was I thinking? So, why did I wear this? I know that I'm only focused on the top. I figured this is really elaborate, so this kind of looks good. I remembered to put on earrings, and that was that. But I knew I had it because it was in that little tiny section of my closet that was like silky tops, more dressed up. I definitely don't need to wear this to like drop the kids off at camp or any of that stuff. But it was for something a little more specialized. So it does take a little work.
I love the lace in there, and also the matching lace on your cuffs. I get to see that because seriously, when you see you're talking, and that's the flavor of you actually dressed for the box, right? We talked about this. I have this incredible hat, but you're not seeing it at all. I have the incredible hair. Yeah, you could see it, but then I'm like, oh, the hair is covering everything. So now all you see is a nice lapel you can't even see the rest of the coat. You can't see it's all gathered up and straight. So the idea is this has really limited us on what we're seeing from here up, right? And I love the fact that you talked about, being on a square digital interface like this. How do we dress that? The idea is that, do we put a scarf on? Do we put the earrings on? Do we have something in our hair? We were to wear a hat that looked kind of funny because then I see part of this, right? And you made a comment saying, are you nervous about getting up? Well, yeah. Why? Because you're the expert. So how does that make you feel? So the fact that you were excited to come today made that you were your best self. Your makeup's fantastic. I love your hair. I saw you in the video. I mean, I didn't like that hairstyle. I love this hairstyle. So if the 11-year-old did it, tell her, yeah, I'm being real. But that's one thing that I think that, as you made a comment, that you're not going to feel dejected if someone says that they're not happy with your comment, that you're going to give them real truth and real conversation, because that's what we need today. We can't have an enablers. We can't have someone be, yeah, it looks good on you, and real looks like, oh, it looks horrible. You've got to be real, because we don't have time, in my opinion, to think about the past and think about what the people think. And that's where I think you nailed it for me today, is you made a comment saying, what did this outfit remind you of? How did it make you feel? I remember I still have the dress that I was asked to get married. I still have my engagement dress. And it's very inexpensive. It's a very nice dress. Can I fit into it? I think so. Maybe I lose a couple more pounds, but I could pretty much get there. And I'll be 30 years this year. And 2 more kids. So I'm okay. I have 4. But the idea is that it's so thin, and I'm like, probably will never wear it. But the point is, it made me feel good when I saw it. So I couldn't toss it. I couldn't put it in somewhere else, because its amount of thickness in my closet was wafer thin. So I'm like, I'm good. But that conversation is like you said, I've never thought of it that way. That clear your closet out, not based on whether you're going to wear it or not. Maybe some of us are having a hard time because we still love it, but how does it make you feel? Because if you're going through so many emotions in your closet, then you're going to feel like that could be, you need to have only up pieces. You can't have down pieces. I love that. I've never heard anyone talk about that. And trust me, everyone, you know how much I talk, and you know how much I travel, and you know how many people I know. So that's just part of my gig. But I like that. How does it make you feel as it's hanging there in the closet? Does it get you going before you even get out of your closet? I think that is probably the most powerful thing, because we as a society need to make sure that we have our ability to embrace what we're wearing, why we're wearing it, and change. And there was a comment I made right before we went live about, I'll get dressed 5 or 6 times some mornings. It takes me 2 hours, because I'm just like, No, it doesn't look good. I don't feel like it doesn't do anything for me. And I go through that whole like, oh my, and then I get into the stress mode. Oh my God, you'll be late. Oh, you're gonna miss the airplane. You got this, and you're like, and the place is like it's like total disasterville. So that ability to structure, and I've gotten better at that. Like if I'm traveling a ton, I'll have like 10 outfits or whatever, have everything kind of laid out so I know packages where I'm going. But I really think that that ability to transfer so much is huge. So in closing, we have a tip here. So we're getting ready to close up here in the next 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
So we have 3 rules we just went through. We have first one, clothes have an influence on our emotions as well as our performance. I think that we just did a full ecosystem on that, right? So fashion is a non-chemical, great passion of strength, and a great booster without cost and ability to affect the body, but in a positive way, because we have to go with it. And how do we get there? Number 2, when dressing for your job, keep it subtle, classy, and covered up. And number 3, know what your body type is and dress for your shape. So in those 3 ecosystem of the entire fashion world, let's talk real quickly. What is the number 1 mistake people make? And what is the best thing that people you see are making a difference?
Ooh. I think the biggest mistake people make is not stopping to think about how that outfit is being perceived. I think they're staying too far in their head, and they think whatever it is that, they're so self-focused, they don't really appreciate that their clothes are sending a message to the world. And that's the biggest mistake, because in seconds, people are picking up, judging what you wear, and making a complete assessment of who you are, how important you feel you are, what work you do, how old you are, how serious you are, all this from what you're wearing. And if you don't acknowledge that, you're making a huge mistake.
Can't judge a book by its cover. So the worst thing.
The worst thing, wait, that was the worst thing.
Oh, sorry, the best thing, sorry.
The best thing that people can do for themselves is to ask for help in anything. And you don't have to hire a fashion consultant. You don't have to hire an image consultant like me, but you can ask for help in other ways. You can go on and watch tutorials. You can message someone that you're connected to on LinkedIn or somewhere else. I mean, you can ask for help, and you can say, here's something I'm struggling with. What are some suggestions? And what I have found doing these years of this business is that especially women are so eager to help, and they are so generous with their time. And don't assume that they don't want to help. They do. We want to support each other. We want to see each other thrive. And I just think that, without a doubt, just ask for it. Ask for help.
That's what I love. Wendy Croft, oh, my friend who connected us. I love it.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you got to talk to her. I looked at her and I was like, yeah, right. She's on. We're done.
She's phenomenal. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Phenomenal. Partner in crime, as we call her. So in your tip, make an effort when getting dressed. Your clothes tell the world who you are right now. And I think the right now is the most important piece. Talk to me about that in closing.
Like I said before, we go through transitions in our life, and our clothes reflect that. I mean, just open your closet doors and you're going to see all the different, stages of your life in there. I think that you need to present yourself every day how you want to perceive in that moment, because how I want to perceive today might have been very different how I want to perceive a year ago. When I thought at top of my game, I had a certain look. And then I went through the pandemic and I dealt with all the, casualness and the craziness and all that. The look today is like, I survived. I've got this. I am a woman. Hear me roar. Very different than it was a year ago. So you really have to think about what is it that you are trying to put out there. Think about your values. Think about your passions. Think about what it is you're trying to achieve, and then use the clothing to get people to see you in that way.
I love it. I love it. This has been so enlightening for me. I have two more shows after this. I'm so excited. So in closing, how do we get a hold of you? What's the best way to connect with you?
I'm on website, thefashionologist.com, or my email, hello@thefashionologist.com. I'd love to support you. I offer complimentary consultations. Just
Yeah,
give me a
and
call.
also LinkedIn. At LinkedIn, you're very prolific in it.
On LinkedIn, I am under Anya Schwartzman, and you can find me and message me. Be so happy. And if you mention this, I'll give you 15% off on the.
There you go. 15% off for being on Know the Rules of the Game with Desiree Patno. And this is a great way. Well, this is where women supporting women. We're about the ecosystem because housing and real estate is the entire ecosystem. 60% of all the jobs relate to that. And you have to show up in your work, in your presence, because your work is in your home, whether you're a care provider, whether you're taking care of the kids, whether you're working from home, that is still work. And I believe that entire ecosystem. That's why I'm so excited to have you on the show today, because not only your personality and your gift of what you do, but from a clinical psychiatrist. And I need everyone to remember that as a clinical psychiatrist, this is not about just someone having a vision and look at something. They've got to speak to you. And I love that the fact our hairdresser used to be the woman we told everyone to everything about and how to deal with our issues. You are someone that I believe that not in addition to, because of 20 years in the space of being a clinical psychologist, and go, well, I just don't feel it today. Like, what's going on with me? That ability to interact with someone who is a trained clinical psychologist and deal with that, they can bring that fashion out without saying, okay, we'll take these drugs, see me in 2 weeks, right? You're bringing that extra layer to have them feel the energy. And to me, that is powerful. So thank you very much. Again, this is Desiree Patno with Enter to Be. We're here at Know the Rules of the Game. We're here on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern. You'll be able to see a recording of this podcast on YouTube, on Anchor, on our website, forenterbe.com. And then also, I know, iTunes is the other one. So thank you very much. So the 3 rules is clothes have confidence on our emotions as well as our performance. When dressing for your job, keep it subtle, classy, and covered up. Know your body type and dress for your shape. So today's tip, make an effort when getting dressed. Your clothes tell the world who you are right now. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon. And everyone have a great and be safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.